Every single action that we take is either a movement towards or from happiness. And when we take a movement towards happiness, we always find misery at the end of it, right? Because the expectation is that the thing that we do will bring us happiness. And when it isn't found, inevitably, because you cannot find happiness in an external thing, there's always misery at the end. So that's pretty much it in 45 seconds. If we were to break this down, we could look at it in two aspects. We could see that every single thing that we do is coming either from power or through force. Power is peaceful action, highest probable result. Force is fear-based action, highly limited result. Now, power is the same as the Sanskrit word kriya. Kriya is it's basically a translation for what basically means frictionless flow. And frictionless flow in our Western world is what we call the flow state. So what typically happens is that we have a road for our life, and it is everything that we could possibly do as a human being that is at the highest degree, right? There's an infinite spectrum of possibilities in the sandbox of our universe, and we exist in all of them, all at the same time. So when we manifest something, I don't want to sidetrack too far right now, but when we manifest something, all we're really doing is we're just quite literally choosing to experience a reality where that thing exists. And we don't notice, it's not like we have this like movement like, oh, I just teleported, I'm in a new reality. We're doing it consistently all the time, and we don't realize it. Imagine like a video where the frame rate is just so quick, you just don't notice that the frames move past. So typically what we're doing is when we're in power, and I guess this could be an introduction to power, it is that we are in frictionless flow, we're in kriya, and we're doing it all. We're in it all the time. You probably don't notice, when you make your bed, or when you open the fridge and take the milk out and open the lid and do it all in this one motion, or when you, open a door and close it very swiftly, at the perfect trajectory without it leaving a bang. It just like kind of clicks. These are all kriya. These are all frictionless flow. This is all power. These are all movements in power. Now, the problem is that when we do things that seem more important, right? Like going on a date, like, entering a tournament, whatever it might be. You could be in a sales call. This is where I learned this properly, was in sales, was in high ticket closing. And I realized that the entire sales and business industry runs in force, and it is all forceful action, basically fear-based action. And it doesn't, you can live in force. You can make millions in force, right? You don't have to do it in power. It's completely up to you. The only problem is that, if you do it in force, fear-based action, which is an action based on the behalf of some type of pressure, some type of need, some type of lack, some type of limitation, some type of if I get this, then I'll have, or if I have that, then I'll have this, something to keep gaining and not really being in the moment. It's a lot more painful, and it takes a lot longer to get there, basically. And you will never be happy at the end of it. So no matter what you do, if you're living in force, you're constantly going to be like struggling to swim. And there's constantly going to be waves crashing over you. And no matter how many times you get back up and feel like you're floating again, something will knock it back down. And when you do get knocked down, like say a life challenge, typically it'll be harder to get back up. And if you do, you'll have to sacrifice something else. you'll basically have to sacrifice another part of your life. If you force, say, let's just say life event happens, parent dies. Now, if you're operating in force, typically it'll take you longer to get back on track. And when you do, you'll have to force your results back. Let's say that you're in sales. You have to force your results back to get to the place you were before, and you'll have to sacrifice loads of other aspects of your life. That's typically what force will look like. Power is essentially complete letting go. It's complete letting go of everything that is actually not serving you. And if you're doing something in that moment that is coming from force, maybe it's a job that you don't really want to be doing, and then that life event happens, it'll take you longer to get back in because you're not going to really want to go back in, because that's going to take force. It's going to take force for you to get back in. You're forcing your results. You're forcing to be there. If you're at a place that you don't want to be, you are in force by definition of not really wanting to be there. And Kriya, power, flow, it wants you to be where you want to be. It guides you by literally giving you the feeling of where you want to be. Now, you don't need to know where you want to be, but it's usually clear and evident to us if we are in a place that we don't want to be. So when we're staying in power, we want to basically continue power in the important parts of our lives. That's the point. We're already in power. Power is the natural state. It's the state that we'd be in if we weren't getting in our own way. It's the state that trees are in all the time. It's the state that plants are in. Like, how does a plant know where the water is? It doesn't have fingertips. It can't just reach out and go, oh, is this water there? Is it a bit damp here? It doesn't do that. It just knows. It's just not that it knows like consciously. It's just nature. Nature knows. Nature is nurturing itself. Nature is constantly in what we would call power. It's constantly in flow. And guess what? We are nature by definition of being alive. We are the conscious experience of nature. We are what nature is experiencing. We are nature experiencing itself. So to think that we can't know or do things that aren't in our conscious experience is a load of baloney. It's a load of Maloney colony. It's just absolute nonsense. Like, we are completely tapped into everything. Now, the only thing is that we usually experience things on a frontal, like, conscious level. You know what I mean? Like, we usually experience with our senses, and we experience like what is going on like in our direct experience. And we usually don't realize like the other side, our subconscious experience, which is always guiding us towards that path. So you could even think of this as when you're in power, you're connected to your intuition, you're connected to like the actual enjoyment of your experience, all the small things that actually happen all the time, which are just as big as any other big thing, right? It's just we deem more importance to other events. We start to actually connect more with our experience, and we connect more to the activity that we're doing. So guess what? I found that tapping into power in high-ticket closing, for example, actually quadrupled my KPIs flat out within like 2 weeks. That is insane. Now, the trick is that we want to be able to stay there. We don't just want to be able to do that for like once. And the same goes if we're playing tennis and we want to do serves recede, if we're playing golf and we want to hit on, birdie to par, like whatever it is, we are constantly going to be tapped in, because when we're tapped in that level, let's just think of it like in terms of like, let's think of it in terms of pool or in terms of like basketball. I think it was Kobe who talked about, when it was one of the greatest basketball players. And he was saying that when he's in the flow, he can't miss. And I don't know if you've seen him play, but he doesn't miss. He just doesn't miss. And he's in the highest performing environment you could be in, like world class, like level. What does he mean by that? Why can't he miss? Why? Why can't he miss? Like, why can't he literally not miss? Because he's tapped in to the highest probable result. Like, he's have peaceful action, highest probable result. And if you have the skill, this is the important thing. If you have the skill, you've got to get the skill. For example, you can't just be like, I'm going to just tap into flow and go start playing the level of Kobe Bryant. Right? It's not going to happen. You need to, because the path of power will be to get that skill in the first place. And it will give you, your path will be to develop those skills to then perform at that level. You don't just get to skip it, because that's not the point. The point is the process. The point isn't just the goal. There's no real goal, right? The goal isn't to be able to score this goal at this particular game on that day, because it's just never ending, right? The goal is to be in power. The goal is to be in that place of peaceful action with the highest probable result, because it is just the place. It's the place where nature and life actually exist, not in our head, thinking thoughts, taking us and distracting us from the thing that we're doing and taking us further away from life. Taking us further away from like actually experiencing really cool and fun things. That's really what we're here for, right? We're not here to work. We're not here for a real purpose. Like, I'm not here to help people. I'm here to experience some really cool shit. We all are. Like, what would be the point? Like, at the end of the day, in an infinite universe, with infinite universes, with only one conscious being, what else is there to do other than to just have fun? Right? At the end of the day, it's just about having fun. And fun is literally synonymous with power. It's synonymous with Kriya, and it's synonymous with the flow. Tell me a time you had fun, you weren't in the flow. Tell me a time that you played when you were a child and you weren't in the flow. That's basically what it is. So when we're staying in power, what we're doing is we are aligning our thought and action and intention with power, with frictionless flow, with the ability to make decisions that are in alignment with that. And what we do then is we allow ourselves to align to that. We let the decisions that we make. And that is what is important, is coming to decisions. And we'll save this for another video, but making decisions on that level is going to take you to a really cool place. And that place is not really a place, but it'll take you to some cool places along the way. Cool. Thank you and good night.